Is Bitcoin ready to breach all-time highs? I really think we're one step closer to actually breaking that previous high here, ladies and gentlemen. Now, does this mean the bears are in the wrong here, thinking that the local top is in? Absolutely not. But I do think the timing of it is wrong. And if we take a look on the macro here, my gathered evidence shows why we're still in the final stages of the bull market. So if you look here, you guys are really familiar with this, I'm sure, which is the halving cycle approach. We have 10 years of data and we've seen how the market reacts. So we do have an established market behavior behind it, meaning that we do have markets reacting to pre and post halving cycles. And if you can see this with the Elliott Wave perspective, which I specialize in, you can see a very interesting thing happening here. You usually see these wave 3, 4, 5s happen after each of these cycles. We have 3, 4, 5 here for a super cycle, 3, 4, 5 for a cycle, and we have a 3, 4, 5 for this primary degree. But are we missing a 3, 4, 5 here? Now, this cycle was quite interesting in itself because we had this wave 3 happen earlier, before the halving cycle. So there is this kind of dynamic shift happening right now, and we are seeing a little bit of a shift in the actual timeline. However, I think that we can make a little bit of an adjustment here to kind of compensate for that slope that we're missing here for the upside, because we do have 3 types of moves here that all show some kind of parabolic move that happened after the cycle, which we haven't yet achieved. So how can we achieve that? I think one way we can achieve it, since this move here was so small, I think that we can extend this move by a 5th wave extension. And I feel like that is going to be the case here, just due to the fact that we didn't have really the actual major push for this wave 3. I felt like this wave 3 could have been longer, but we did get an abrupt stop here for that wave 4. And right now, we did kind of creep up. And right now, there's so much low volume right now. I think that there's still a lot of chance for the bulls to actually push this to the upside, especially institutions and retail still kind of sitting on their hands right now, waiting for how this is going to be playing out. But as prices now kind of creeping up and we're now currently at 95,000, I think there's a lot of market confidence coming back into the market. And I still think that we are missing that last final parabolic slope that we need to the upside. So what does this mean from a trading perspective? Where should you start taking profits? Well, you should always be taking profits anywhere, no matter what. I mean, you should have already taken profits on that wave 3, but let's say you're starting to actually get into positions over here. I really would start to take into consideration for this current wave 3 on the shorter time frames that we will talk over in just a second, because that will make the majority of the actual slope to the upside. And that final 3, 4, 5 is something that you really don't want to be trading. Rather, that's an opportunity to start taking profits more than anything else. So to kind of conclude, I think that we are missing a 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, just like we did in the previous cycles. But in this cycle, I think that 3, 4, 5 right now, it's going to be kind of diagrammed a little bit differently, meaning that we may just see this as a 5th wave extension. So how can that 5th wave extension be completed? Let's kind of zoom in and see how we are creating that 5th wave. As you can see here, this is the idea that we have been talking about. It's all puzzling together here, right? If we look at this 5th wave, we have been talking about how this 5-wave move has been created ever since the cycle low of this current move. 2022, we saw this November move, wave 1, 2, 3. We had really called pretty much every move here, right? And this wave 4, after this, we were assuming some kind of continuation to the upside for a larger 5th wave to the upside to happen a little bit earlier. But right now, since we are looking at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 being complete here, there's just no follow-up evidence that this move here was impulsive to the downside. Remember, if you want to see the end of a trend, if you are saying that this is now going into a bear market, you really ideally want to see some kind of impulsive move to the downside. Now, we did we kind of achieved the depth of it for a first move to the downside. We had a 30% or so move to the downside. However, that to me, it wasn't done in an abrupt or kind of a fast fashion, meaning that this 30% move should have been done in a 5-wave impulse. We should have had some kind of move like this as a 5-wave move, and that would have changed the story completely. However, we were met with very strong overlaps as a WXYXZ, and that's just giving me signs that this whole move down was controlled more than anything else. So there's a balance between the bulls and the bears on this WXYXZ, which is why there's a lot of frustration happening, and that's how we can be observing from a wave theory perspective, where more or less we have seen the depth of the correction happen. However, it was more controlled, and we didn't see it in an impulsive fashion that could be leading us for a more bearish outlook. Now, that doesn't mean that there can be a bearish scenario. I think there are a lot of ways, but at this point, it's about choosing your poison. It's not about trying to be right or wrong. I think right now, I am at a stage where I'm just choosing to be on the bullish side because, like I said, on the macro perspective, I feel like we haven't achieved that larger slope to the upside. And right now, we are still at a stage where we can be fulfilling a pretty nice looking 5-wave structure for this extended 5th wave. Now, there's a lot of obstacles we have to go through, but these past few weeks, especially with this move up here, is giving us a little bit more conviction that we may be working for a larger wave 3 of this 5th wave to the upside. So there's a lot of buying pressure that needs to come into the markets. A lot of the order books are quite thin right now. There's a lot of liquidations over here, and I'm sure they're going to get triggered. And then this bullish level, if that breaks, there's a pretty fair chance that we are working for a larger 3rd wave to the upside. So that being said, there's really not much that has changed in the overall perspective of this. I think that we don't have to be too creative. I mean, a lot of people might be talking about a possible 1-2 idea, and we just may be working in a 3-4-5 that may lead us up to $1 million per Bitcoin. But I don't think that we will hit $1 million per Bitcoin. I think the power of power of compounding is quite applicable here. I mean, if you really think about it, at $95,000, 100%, 200% move, it's not much, right? It's still leading us into the astronomical $200,000 levels that a lot of people think is impossible. I do think it's absolutely possible, and that's the power of compounding, because really a 200% move is not much. If you think about it, it was far harder to go from 15,000 to all the way up to the current levels that we are at right now, as opposed to this over here where we're going from 95,000 up to, $200,000, $300,000 per Bitcoin. I think that is absolutely possible, especially with so much of the order books being thin at these levels over here. So that's another way to view it, ladies and gentlemen. It's a lot harder to go from 15,000 to the current levels. A lot of people thought that was impossible or very possible. But why are we thinking that it's impossible to go to these levels? I absolutely think it's very possible. And I think a lot of people will get fairly disappointed in that and seeing that it's going to go to an astronomical level when in fact it's not really. It's only 200% move. So that's my current take on Bitcoin's overall daily time frame. How can we create the time frame of this level over here? I think if we zoom in, we can get a pretty good idea. However, there are just too many scenarios, in my opinion, that I feel like it doesn't really give us too much substance in how this is going to be continuing. What matters is that we created some kind of 5-wave impulse off of the lows here that gives us a lot of strength. Why? Because we broke through so many resistance levels here. We're kind of just hovering at this level over here where another major resistance level is at. So I think there's a lot of ways we can count this. My original anticipated count here did play out pretty much, and it's fulfilled. I feel like we're just going to chop here for a 1-2 of some sort. And that's the key point here, ladies and gentlemen. After some kind of 5-wave impulse, you really want to be looking for a 1-2 pullback no matter what, for confirmation of any trend. And no matter how bullish you are, you want to be looking for at least a 1-2 pullback. So right now, I feel like there is a 5-wave completion here. I feel like, again, since Bitcoin is a commodity, we're going to start to see a lot more extended 5th waves rather than extended 3rd waves. I just feel like that's just how Bitcoin has behaved in the past as well. And right now, I do think that right now we are in that kind of phase where we're going to see some small bursts of price action to the upside continuously, and these pullbacks are going to be quite shallow. We can start assuming even at this point that these moves here, we're not going to have like a deep, sharp correction, and I think these 1-2s can start even evolving into more common as sideways structures of flats of some sort, the triangles for waves 3 and 4s. I feel like we won't be achieving those sharp corrections, and that's pretty much how we're seeing it for the larger picture as well, because we want it to be as parabolic as possible, right? So right now, I think that this current scenario for Bitcoin on the shorter time frames, again, there's just too many ways we can count it, but I feel like we do need some kind of established larger 1-2 before we actually move to the upside. Again, I could be wrong. We can just completely go work for the upside right now, which has a scenario case right here where it's going to be so bullish. This is maybe just a leading down going to wave 1-2. This wave 2 was so shallow, it didn't even reach the 0.382 or the 0.236 Fibonacci level. So it does make me a little bit hesitant on this count, but That's how it is in Bitcoin right now. We actually just may be shooting to the upside, where we may be seeing a wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right now, and that target for this wave 3 extension of the intermediate degree may be bringing us up into even $110,000, $125,000. That's going to be breaching the previous all-time highs. I wouldn't be surprised. That's absolutely possible. And then we get that larger 1-2 pullback. That's fine as well, because that fits into the larger extended wave 3 of that larger fifth wave degree. So I think we're just kind of boiling it down to two scenarios here, ladies and gentlemen. Are we going to get that pullback at a later stage? Are we going to get a pullback of a 1-2 right now? That's really up to you. But to me, I'm really focusing on the larger picture, like I said, because if you pull up that daily time frame once again, I think that we are working for that kind of fifth wave extension, and we should already be positioned more than anything else. I think it's quite dangerous to be trading Bitcoin on the shorter time frames more than anything else. Another 3%, 4 or 5% pullback. I think the dips are going to be bought up more than anything else. Now, there is a bearish scenario, but, it's not really something that I want to even talk about. But, I think we can just say that this move here was a transitional wave, where maybe this is working in some kind of WXY scenario. But I just still can't find a real probable scenario for a WXY that's working in a larger 1-2 that ruins the overall symmetry of the larger time frames. So it's best to just say that we're going to go for a bear market entirely. And the only real way we can do that, in my opinion, is this here, where we have a leading diagonal going into wave A or wave 1. I mean, if it's really bearish, and then this wave C is now in that conclusion phase where it's going to end anywhere between that 61.8% and that 78.6%. That's pretty high for a wave B, in my opinion, and then move to the downside. This will be the ultimate fake out. I mean, not sure what kind of catalyst can actually handle that or provide us that, but it is possible. I mean, we can really see this as a whole corrective range rather than an actual end of something here where we're now working in an impulse to the upside, but it's possible, meaning that I'm sure a lot of people are also similarly seeing this as a hybrid structure of an ABC rather than a 1-2. And I'm one of those advocates as well. You really don't know until it actually does a breakout. So that's why we just have to choose the poison. I'm more on the bullish side. I do think that these levels are going to eventually break, even with another 1-2 pullback. I feel like the dips are being meant for buying right now at this stage. I think a lot of people are anticipating higher levels. I think that there's not enough momentum to disappoint the bulls or the bears. I just feel like they're going to keep liquidating. I think there's not really a lot of order books being heavily into the positions right now, meaning that there's not a lot of large positions for shorts being built here. Because we're past the 50% level. I think this level here was a critical level for both bears to actually kind of put more downside pressure, and that we didn't get that. That's why we made that bias swap over here, where we thought it was going to be, moving towards to the downside for a larger WXY to the downside, but we didn't get that. And we did fantastic. Right now, it's already up, from these levels over here where we talked about it, it's up 30% almost, right? So that's how I'm currently seeing Bitcoin right now. It's all about gathering the organizational skills you have. We can sit here and talk about the shorter time frames all day if we want, but ultimately it's the markets that decide the price action here on the shorter time frames. And right now, I do think that we do have an established impulse to the upside of some sort, whether this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we get that 1-2 pullback now, or we go for some kind of larger extension wave for this wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we get that pullback at a later stage, and that'll happen at the all-time high. And as you can see, that 1-2 pullback should be support or resistance turned into support at the all-time highs, and then we should finally be off to the races for a larger 3, 4, 5 respectively. So hopefully that was helpful, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't have much to add on to here. I think, if you want me to talk more about bearish scenarios, you're not really going to get it. But right now I am a bull. We are seeing, again, based on the evidence of that larger time frame of the fractal approach, hopefully that could give you a little bit more insight. I mean, really, that's how I'm seeing it. I mean, we do have a little bit of a CME gap here. I would say that's possible for that pullback. And that's where that 1-2 shorter time frame pullback is absolutely possible. But right now, when you're looking at it from a larger weekly time frame, all of this is just noise, in my opinion. I don't think there's enough momentum for the bears right now. I think we just need that final blow off top, and that will be the ultimate time to actually short the markets and take profits in your spot positions. So yeah, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that was helpful. That was our weekly Bitcoin update. Thank you very much. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, so do whatever you want to show your interest. Thank you so much. Comment down below if you're in a Bitcoin. I don't know if you're in altcoins. I think altcoins are also very, very bullish as well. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a fantastic rest of the week. Bye-bye.